I have to say, I was more excited about this research than anything I've done for at least 10 years.
Really?
And it actually all kind of got the spark. It got initiated with the WikiLeaks scandals, because inside WikiLeaks we found that not only are there, the saboteurs like deep state people, the federal bureaucrats that operate in Washington, D.C., and draining the swamp. I don't know if it's a swamp or a sewer, but one way or the other, it needs to be drained, right? But what we learned in the WikiLeaks is something that we as Christians have known for a long time, and that is behind, in the deeper state that Colonel McGinnis talks about, behind all of this is a shadow hand, a dark, occult, anti-Christ spirit.
Can you imagine the Colonel has a book called The Deeper State?
Right.
That's beyond, that's the creature lurking beyond the deep state, right?
Wow.
Absolutely.
These saboteurs. Tell us more about the saboteurs.
Well,
the title and who these people.
So what I'm doing in this is I'm actually talking about the spirit, the supernaturalism. Paul said in his day, there are many antichrists in the world, but how many people understand that the United States of America was actually dedicated from its inception to bringing to the throne who we would call Antichrist? And many people in our government know that. When Roosevelt and his VP, Henry Wallace, put the Great Seal on the $1 bill, which is, of course, the world's monetary system, right? They knew. Wallace wrote in his own autobiography as Freemasons that they knew that that was a prophecy, that at some point in the future, literally the king of planet Earth would be enthroned as a president of the United States of America and bring to fulfillment the Novus Ordo Seclorum. All those prophecies, all that is on the Great Seal, it all comes from ancient occultism. The Cumae Sibyl, who was the most powerful of the prophetesses of Apollo, her prophecies that at the end of time, right, the golden age will rise again when men will be commingled with gods. This is literally what the Watchers did, the fallen angels that came down and blended human and angelic matter and created the Nephilim. She prophesies this will all come back. It will come full circle. And Jupiter will resume his reign over the stratosphere. That's why Gods and Thrones has a lot of the images on it and even includes the pagan gods along the front of there. But on earth, she said, Apollo will reign again. Why should Christians care about that? Because Paul says the Antichrist will be the son of perdition. That's the Greek word Apollo. It will be the reanimation of this ancient hostile entity. And it's right in the prophecies of the Great Seal. But this book, though, goes behind that and says, look what we just learned, right? With some of the highest placed people in the federal government practicing spirit dinners and spirit cooking and Aleister Crowley level occultism, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We just discovered it. The campaign director for Hillary Clinton, John Podesta, standing up in his private emails, of course, but holding his hands up proudly with the number 14 in one hand and a fish in the other. This is right out of necromantic Osirian witchcraft. The whole purpose of bringing about the resurrection of the god Osiris, or who the Greeks would have called Apollo.
This witchcraft that's in the world right now, the witches, we've been reading a lot about it on the news, actually. Is that in your book?
Well, it is in the book, and also, if you look at what these witches that were putting binding spells on Donald Trump.
That's right. They're saying they're doing it every day.
But notice what they said. They said it's not only to bind him, but all who abet him. That's me, you, Christianity. This is a declaration of war. They feel like they've got momentum now. They really do. Well, Hillary Clinton back in the news this week, but you know what's in her book? In her book, she talks about how she wanted to cast voodoo spells and use voodoo dolls, right? This is some pretty dark, spooky, weird stuff. And what did God do? Look, Trump is by far not a perfect man, and there's a lot of times I wish he would stop tweeting, right? Seriously. But go, I would encourage people, go back and read President Trump's inaugural speech. If you didn't watch it live, read it. He is declaring war on the deep state. He really is. And the cross-party monopoly of both the Republican and the Democrats for far too long, he says. You know, the people in Washington, they prospered, they did better, they built their careers, and the people have been left on the sideline. And he says that stops here, and now we're giving it back to the people. That was a declaration of war, right? And that's the reason why only days later you have the former U.S. President Obama moves 1 mile away from the White House and sets up what even the Beltway today is calling a pseudo-third-term U.S. presidency, right? A shadow government.
Shocking.
Right.